Welcome to another episode of Against the Grain, a Soba golf podcast. Today's guest brings together style, creativity, and a powerful personal journey, Steven Malbon. He's an innovator, a fashion icon, and a creative force who's reshaping the way we experience golf. But beyond the brand, Steven is also a father, a husband, and someone on his own journey of sobriety. I had the chance to sit down with him for a real conversation about life, growth, family, and the deeper parts of the path he's walking. It was an absolute pleasure for me to get to know him, and I'm grateful for how openly he shared his story with us. It's a conversation I won't forget, and I think it'll stick with you too. Remember, folks, progress happens one swing at a time. Now, let's get into it. First and foremost, just thank you so much for coming on. I would say that I don't usually get nervous, and now that we're kind of looking at each other, I don't feel nervous, but I was a little bit, and it helps me to kind of get that out there. So I just wanted to say that. But speaking of cooking, it seems like you have like a little bit of a new obsession on your personal page. You do a lot of foraging for mushrooms lately.
Yes.
What's that about? Tell me about that.
So I live up in Monterey Peninsula, and a good friend of mine, Curtis, introduced me to foraging, and so I'm completely obsessed. There's these chanterelle golden mushrooms that are very hard to find, and they're it's cool because like if I were to go hiking like by myself, I would go for like 20 minutes and then kind of get like ADD'd out and burnt and want to leave. But now I'll like literally hike for like 2 or 3 hours. But it's every time I almost want to leave, I'll find one, and then you can find like batches of them, and there's like a whole community. And then my kids are selling them to the like fancy restaurants in Carmel.
Yeah.
So they've started a little business, and Lucci and Remy and their friend Axel. Um, Basically, I go into the poison oak and catch poison oak and get the mushrooms, and then I give them to them, and they sell them and make, a couple $100 here and there. So it's quite nice. I think they go for like $30, $35 retail. So they're
Wow.
selling it for like $20 to the restaurants a pound. And we can find 5 pounds fairly easy, but the max I've ever found with Igor and Tommy last winter, it was better. There was more rain. We found around 100 pounds in one day, like
Wow.
a duffel bag full of these giant golden chanterelles.
Wow.
So
And
yeah, I'm obsessed, and it's like this is my second year foraging, but it's super cool and very calming, and just walking, in nature. And so that there's chanterelles grow underneath the oak trees, but so does poison oak. And then porcini mushrooms are quite sought after as well. They grow underneath the pine trees.
yeah.
And so all in the Del Monte forest, which is like the forest around Pebble Beach and Spyglass and all of that, there's porcinis, and then that's as far as I've gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that's a super dad move of just like, yeah, I'm gonna get poison ivy for my kids, and then
Poison
give them
oak.
poison oak, and then
Horrible.
which is worse, and then give the mushrooms to my kids to then profit from. So that sounds like a dad move for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just became a dad of two girls. I have a 16-month-old and a 3-month-old. So
Good work.
yeah, it's a wild time while also kind of launching Soba. It's been intense, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Mine are 18 months apart, so you went even quicker than me, right?
Yeah, we know how it happened, but it was definitely a big surprise.
Really?
Yeah, big surprise. But my daughter, I was just in there in the house. My wife's on maternity leave, and she smiles like all the time. All she wants to do is make eye contact with you and smile. Whereas my first daughter, Lenny, she just like always just had a sort of stone face. So it's nice. It's a special time.
Yeah. They're quite different, although they're only a year or so apart, right?
Exactly. Yep. But
Mine couldn't be more different as humans.
yep, that's how it goes. Do you have siblings?
I have an older brother and a younger sister. Yeah. My
Nice.
brother's in New York and my sister's in Virginia.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, you grew up in Virginia, right?
Yes, sir. In Virginia Beach, I grew up until I was about 17, and then I went to Colorado, Atlanta, New York, LA, now Pebble Beach.
Amazing. Maybe we could start there a little bit. I mean, you just put out something about swing oil, which I'm really excited to learn about, and it kind of bleeds into like, you mentioned in the post that you had, you went to art school in
Hmm.
Atlanta, and I guess I was just curious. And when I met you actually at the PGA show, quick little side note for people, you were incredibly gracious, very easy to talk to, and I'm just so grateful that again you accepted the invitation. But one thing that stood out to me is I said, "How do I get in contact with you?" And you're like, "I'll give you my information." You took out a pen, you wrote it on a napkin, and the one thing that stood out to me is how immaculate your handwriting is. And I guess I just thought that was interesting. But maybe can you talk about like the median that you were into when you were 17, 18 and going to college and studying that stuff?
Yeah, so art, I grew up, my grandmother Tilly was a ceramic artist and a watercolor painter.
Mm.
And so I learned a lot from her when I was little in sculpting and painting. And then my neighbor Frank Finney was a is still is a folk artist, but mainly focused on carving wooden ducks
Mm.
back, and now it's more folk art ish. But he is a master decoy duck carver, painter, etc. And even would do like restoration, like where if someone had like a $1 million decoy wooden carved masterpiece and they would break it like your kid breaks it, he could fix it and take it back. So I learned a lot from those two. And his wife Valerie was also like an oil painter, and so I learned a lot of that art when I was little. And then in high school, I went to Votech, Vocational Technology School, or whatever Votech stands for. And I went for visual communications. So there was a lady named Judy Doyle who was um, she was a creative director at an agency up in New York City. She moved back to Virginia Beach. So some people were going there for like learning how to build engines or culinary or whatever. So it was like you would learn, things like this. And so in there, I started learning like graphic design and advertising basically. So when I was like 16, I was doing that, and I did that from 16 to 17. And I dropped out of high school. I moved to Colorado, and art wise, like I would paint like for say like holiday like candy canes and snowmans and stuff like on people's windows with acrylic paint basically. So for the holidays, that was really the only thing there artistically I was doing, and snowboarding a lot, etc. And then in having the best time of my life and the most like freedom ever living in Colorado, and like hitchhiking and snowboarding every day and being like your typical ski bum. Um, I got a job at a retail store. I was selling snowboards and things like this, but I realized really quickly that like my friends there, I was hanging out with like 50-year-olds that were, ski every single day and like the greatest life ever, like no stress, just living like very like cool. And I was thinking like, if I don't go learn a trade, and then I'm gonna like end up doing this forever. And it wasn't that I didn't like their lifestyle. I just thought I'd maybe have more to like give to the world artistically or something. And so I went to Art Institute in Atlanta, and I went for um, like advertising, the same thing, like graphic design, visual communications. And I learned all of the like Adobe softwares because when I did it in high school, it was like almost pre-Apple computer. So I learned it a little bit, but it was like the first Adobe, where like now I don't even know what Adobe it is, but at art school I had to take all of that, all of the classes, like illustrations and everything. And even in high school, I dropped out of high school where I would get like, I could get like A's in art and A's in science, but I had a really, really hard time reading, and I had a really hard time writing in English and in math. I was like had an issue where I could like look at the equation with math and I could figure out the like give or take the answer. So if the answer was 6.3, I would know the answer was between 6 and 7 in
Hmm.
like 10 seconds,
Yeah.
but I couldn't like work backwards to figure it out
Hmm.
the proper way. And so I'd get frustrated. And school, I think I had issues with like, I couldn't read this fast as most people, or I would like my eyes when they go like this, they'd skip lines.
Hmm.
So therefore, I would read like 5 pages and then I'd have no idea what I read,
Hmm.
And so that was tricky. And back then, there wasn't like, they didn't understand like dyslexia, or they didn't understand that, people learn differently. And,
Hmm.
I have a son now, and one of my two sons, Luciano, is the same situation. So, like, creatively, he's insanely smart. Comprehension, he's insanely smart, but he can't read the same that the other people can. So he goes to a school that's built to like celebrate what he's really, really good at, and
Hmm.
then like give him support to catch up on the other stuff eventually.
Hmm.
And back when I went to school, there wasn't like, it was just like, you're dumb, or
Hmm.
like, try harder, like, try harder. It's like, yeah, I'm trying harder, but I can't read. So
Yeah.
I think instead of like dealing with that, I just started basically like doing drugs and like taking acid
Hmm.
and smoking pot and taking acid very, very young, like
Hmm.
in school. And so the acid was great. It like expanded my mind, and it let me know that you truly can do whatever you want, and you can visualize, insanely visualize, and then like turn that into reality or something. So it was a very odd time when I was like going to junior high school and like doing acid like constantly in school.
Hmm.
Um, and I would just like draw, and like I was doing horrible with grades because I would start the beginning of the year and I'd like, I'm gonna try hard, I'm gonna try harder, like my mom said to, and then like, 2, 3 weeks in, I'm like in the back row, like just drawing basically because
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out. And even art school, when I went in Atlanta, I would get like, life drawing or graphic design, like any of the art stuff, I would get like really good grades. And then I remember I failed algebra like 3 times,
Hmm.
and because I had dropped out of high school, my family cut me off. I was paying for my own school.
Hmm.
So it was quite expensive to fail algebra 3 times,
Yeah.
and I ended up not finishing the art school where I went, but I got hired as an art director at an ad agency, and we were working on Coca-Cola and Sprite and Tanqueray and HBO, and I had all these accounts. There was a New York office, an LA office, and a Atlanta office, and so I worked there.
Well.
And one of my art classes was called electronic pre-press, and I had to figure out how to like set up files digitally to go to press. And
Hmm.
so I started a magazine at the time called Frank 151, and it was like a underground cultural guide to music, art, fashion, and subcultures in Atlanta only. And I was sending the magazine to New York and like Southern California to get ads.
Hmm.
And I realized that at a young, like right around that time where I was realized that the people in New York and the people in LA, or like, like Orange County or wherever like DVS shoes were and all the like skate companies, I realized that like they liked the product even more than the people in Atlanta. And I realized I had a really good product, but I had a really shitty audience because there's only so many like creative, cool people in Atlanta. But at that point, Luckily, I got to move to New York because the ad agency I was working for had an office in New York, and my brother was in New York. So seamlessly, I got to move up to New York City, and yeah,
So
I ran a. Go ahead.
just quickly. So, um, I just want to just identify so much with you with your school experience. You know, I definitely had a tremendous capacity to learn and comprehension, and I was definitely into the arts and all those sort of things. I was a big athlete too. That came really easy to me. But all the same sort of things that you mentioned, uh, you know, I remember being put in like resource room, which was like a death sentence for someone who was considered, you know, popular and like got along with girls and had a lot of friends. Like I used to like hide. I used to run into that room because I was so ashamed of kind of like my inability to, you know, I think I might have dyslexia. Never really been tested for it, but I can read a page and not really understand what's going on. So I have a lot of sort of empathy for that, for your experience, but for mine too, really. And you know what that did, I relate a lot to like smoking a lot of pot. I started drinking and smoking at 13 years old. Started smoking weed every single day. School and sort of responsibilities went to the wayside. And then, you know, then came like mushrooms and acid and all those other things. I was a big like fish fan, you know, during that time. And uh, that was a easy escape to like start growing my hair and wearing hemp necklaces and tie dye shirts. And I became like kind of a new person. And so, yeah, like just wanted to kind of touch that point for the audience to hear too, like that, cause I'm sure we'll get to the sort of turning point too. But anyway, so how did you end up getting that job? Was it through the person that was the teacher in New York City, or was it through your brother
No, no,
at
no,
the
no.
agency?
That person, no, that person was gone. It was, I started a magazine, and then the magazine got me the job because it was like super subculture-y and like, very relevant in like skateboarding and snowboarding and like all
So
of that stuff. So,
was it more or less you just had an instinct? You're like, this is just cool. I think that people will enjoy it, and I'm just going to create it.
Um, it was like before the internet, and so if you knew someone on Hot 97 and you were, a musician, then you could get your stuff played, or if you had a record deal with a big group, they would force them to play your stuff. But underground culture really didn't have a lot of outlets, so it was more like that, and it was like an art project, and I just kind of kept doing it and figured it out along the way. But the going back to the my son Luciano goes to a school called Chartwell, and Chartwell is like this super modern way of learning and teaching and everything. And at the gala for the school, they were talking about dyslexia and that half of incarcerated, like half of the people in jail in America have dyslexia.
Mm,
So it's like, go figure,
mm,
it's like if you're dumb and everyone's telling you you can't read and you're dumb and you're this and that, it's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go steal a car.
mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, what else are you gonna do? Or
Yeah.
drugs or alcohol or crime. And so that's like a very interesting thing where I
Yeah.
think that like having this school Chartwell and they're like teaching all these other schools how to do it. So I've seen my son go from like miserable at school at a public schools to
Mm,
like thriving where
mm,
he is now. So I think that's it's an exciting thing because truly when I was young, like my parent, no one knew what it was. It was just like, well, you're not trying hard enough.
yeah.
And it's like that's not really the case. Like I'm not trying very hard at life drawing and I'm getting A's and I'm not trying very hard at like lacrosse and I'm very athletic. Like this isn't it's not about what trying harder. Sometimes just people are different and like this school celebrates the people being different and like I said, like focusing on the strengths and not like just pounding them that they can't do one thing,
Yeah.
so
Totally.
it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it builds confidence, right? It starts to compound on itself, and that's great that he's finding that.
And then my
So
other son, Remington, he goes to Stevenson, and it's like an academic athletic school. And he's like way, I guess more like normal, like, good at school, friend groups. He's less artistic, more athletic for sure than Luciano, but it's very interesting going back to like you having the two kids at how different they can be with like pretty much the exact same, you know, opportunity, if you will, just completely different. Um,
I'm very excited, and I'll report back as things kind of progress on my children's sort of, and maybe might ping you for advice too. But so you're in the agency, and from what I understand, I just kind of reading and listening to some of your other interviews, you end up having a lot of success in New York City. You're running around, you're kind of partying in the city. Um, can you tell a little bit about what that experience was living in the city and kind of your professional experience?
yeah, I ran a magazine and an agency and was promoting and doing events and doing nightlife and um it was super fun. It was like self-medicating myself to not know how like hard of a life it is living in New York, going up and down like six stairs with grocery bags and like dirt on the street and snow and weather and like just grinding and like go to work at like 10 in the morning, work until like 9 at night, go to dinner. Dinner turns to gallery party or something or another, and then going to the nightclubs until 4 in the morning, and then an after party, and going to bed at 6 if I could, and then like do it all again, and just like it's like like stuck on like the like just going like around and around and around, and it's the
Yeah.
exact same thing, just like having drinks early at the office, turn to dinner, turn to, everything else until the sun comes up, and then do it again and do it again and do it again. And I did it so long that like um I didn't realize it was like not when I was younger, it was like when you're older, you drink. Like that's what you do, and like it wasn't like I didn't have an option of like people I looked up, like my family, my grandfather, my dad, every one of my dad's friends, my older brother, all of his friends, even my mom. It was just like that's what you do when you're an adult. You drink, and you drink until you black out, and like that's what you do if you're an adult, And so it was like even them, they like would like my dad would like get me drinking like way earlier, so it was like I figured that like if I want them to like me and I want to like fit in with my family and my friends and my uncles and everyone, it's pretty much just what you do. So I never really like realized it was an issue until I was like, it was just getting like, it gets harder and harder to keep up, right? It's like a double-sided candle. I'm like working really hard, and I'm partying really hard, and it's just going and going and going. And at some point it was starting to like get harder to do both. And then I was like going just like overly self-medicating like constantly, and one thing to get you up and one thing to get you down, and like just loopy, and like I couldn't and then I started to be like, like I think like I'm doing too much, and a lot of my friends were dying. I was having friends that were dying, and so I started to think like this might not be like I don't know that this is going to get any easier, and it's like getting harder, and it's like getting like harder to like chasing it, and like having to like it was becoming like too hard to like have dealers that have this and like calling and da da da, and I had money, and so it wasn't the issue of money, it was the issue of just like running out of drugs and then having to get more, and like all of that stuff was starting to really kind of like weigh me down. And so then I was like, I'm just gonna stop, and then like I couldn't. right? It was like I would a couple days, but my job was like traveling constantly. So it was like everywhere. So I'm going to LA, then like I have dinner with these people. And like, I think a lot of it also was like I had this weird feeling that like people expected me to party too. So, like if I'm going to dinner and everyone's drinking, then like I had this weird, like, I guess it's not even weird, but just like this feeling of like, well, I kind of have to drink because they're drinking and they expect me to drink and like they expect me to, smoke weed or do drugs or whatever it may be. And like, um, I would go like hard. And then when they would probably like take a day or two off and like, be hungover for a day and then like eat good for the next day and then prepare to go back into it. I would just fly to the next city and they would be like, "Oh, Steve's here, like dinner, party, ba ba ba." And then I'd do that for 3 days there. And then I'd fly to Tokyo and then I'd fly to Paris and then I'd fly here. So I was just like, I couldn't get out of it.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
So when going back to that moment where you were like you wanted to maybe stop or slow down, and it makes sense. It's a part of your lifestyle. It's a part of the sort of culture that you're in with work, and probably professionally it could help in some circumstances. Um, like what was the experience? Because you don't drink and party anymore, right? That's the lifestyle you've chosen now.
Mhm.
What was the experience of like getting to that final day of like not using anymore? Like how many times did you say to yourself, "Oh, like I'm hurting myself emotionally. I'm in pain. Like I should stop doing this." Like what was that experience of like trying to stop? Or bringing awareness to it, because it sounded like it wasn't something that you really thought about as a problem per se.
Yeah, I didn't ever really thought of it as a problem until I started to like more getting curious to like it. I don't know if this is it. Like this, I don't know that this is like, I don't know if it's,
Like
I don't
serving
know,
you.
or not even serving, just like, I don't know if this can continue and not keep getting worse. I just started to like common sense wise, like this is getting pretty far and like I don't know how much further it can go. And like I said, like I had friends dying. So it's like, I don't know if this has longevity, right? And so then I started that. But um I went
Was there a particular night that you could remember that like you were like, wow.
it was the whole fucking thing. It was just the whole thing. It wasn't really like one night or anything. I just started to like, you know, I started to like think about it, I would say. And then I thought like, well, maybe I'll just chill. And then like I chill for like 2 days and then I have dinner with so and so and then it's like 6 in the morning, and so like I realized that I'm gonna need some help to chill. So I put myself in the rehab in Connecticut. I checked myself into this place and like it was like a really weird experience for me where I went there and then I detoxed and this, that, and the other. And it was like, 4 or 5 days. And then I'm like looking around at everyone in there. And it was like some people were like, is like a mental ward, like cuckoo farm. And then other people were like there, but they were there because their parents made them go there or something. And they were like, I can't wait to get out and do drugs, And so you have that going on. And it was like, I was having a hard time with the people I was in there with. And then they basically I was in like like a NA or AA, like a group thing at the rehab facility, and they basically pulled me out of the class, and they were like, "Hey, your bill, like the payment hasn't gone through or something." And I'm thinking like, so you just like pull me out in the middle of a session to like bother me about like the bills. Like I'm gonna pay the bill. Like they already paid one bill and now there's another. So it just seemed quite like intrusive. And then when I went back to the room, to get the phone to call or whatever, to call who I had to call to get the bill paid. um, the guy started telling me like the famous people who stayed in my room,
Mm.
and I was like, so I just called Delancey Car Service in New York City. They answer the phone, Delancey, Delancey, Delancey. So I called Delancey and I had him come pick me up and I
Mm.
just left.
Wow.
Right. And so then when I left, I was like, I'm not staying here, dude. There's no way I'm doing this. But I knew also that I was like, in those sessions for the first time, I was like, I'm not as bad as a few of those people, but I'm way worse than most of them
Yeah.
with where I am in my journey in it. And so I went, actually I flew to my parents' house in Virginia Beach, and I just like sweated it out, and I just sweated it out, and I would do like every time I thought about drinking or doing drugs or smoking weed or whatever it may be, I would just do push-ups and sit-ups, and like I just literally sweated it out, and I had like horrible dreams and vivid dreams and madness, and I kind of like got through it there. And then for the next, like, I don't know how long, years, I would do like on and off, on and off, on and off. So I'd go like a year or two sober, and but the whole time I had this like weird depressed feeling of like poor me, like
Mm.
self-pity, like everyone else is partying, everyone else is having a good time, like I'm like, I can't handle it. I can't.
Mm.
I know for sure if I drink, then like I might be okay, but I might not be okay. And like I know if I don't drink, that I'm gonna be great.
Mm.
Like I figured that much out. But then
Yeah.
and so it was like a weird thing. And so again, I just would be like full all in or all out, and I wouldn't be like guilty guy. Like I would just choose I'm gonna party, and then
Mm.
I would just party like that.
Mm.
I wouldn't feel like the whole time I was doing it, I wouldn't feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. It was just a choice I was making. But like I didn't have kids, I didn't have a wife, I didn't have like, you know, I didn't really care that much like if I was lived or died in a wild way.
Mm.
So I would just like make a decision. This is what I'm going to do, and do it and have fun. And, and then it would get to a point where I'm like, I need to chill. And then I would like white knuckle it, and I would go to AA meetings, and I would do whatever I could do in LA. And then when I had kids, is it's weird, like when you're going to experience this, like when you you know people, or even like men, you're very good at like building walls and like not feeling certain things you don't want to feel. So if like if you were like bullied as a kid, just making one up, you can like block that, right? You can just like, well, I don't want to think about that shit. So you build up walls and you don't think about it. And 20 years go by, you don't think about being bullied until your kid comes home one day and says like, Dad, I'm being bullied. Then it's like all the walls are ripped down. When Luciano went to school, and he went from the preschool to the um, kindergarten or whatever, and he went to Crossroads in LA, and it was like everyone was like, it's amazing they let him in, and like that he's there, and like, it's like hard to get in school, wah wah wah. But like he was miserable, and like I would pick him up and see that he was miserable because he couldn't keep up. Even in kindergarten, like he couldn't keep up with the class. So they ended up calling and saying like he needs to go back to preschool, you
Mm.
know. So when I picked them up and I had to talk to the teachers, I had like it like knocked the walls down. So I cried for like 24 hours because it was like flashback or something. So the emotions you block and hold in with drugs and with building walls, when your children go through similar things, it's like you can't fucking help it. You
Mm.
can't help the emotions to come back. So that was like a interesting time. And I had a great therapist that I started to work with because I started to be like overwhelmed with feelings.
Mm,
And again, it comes from like, you know, my kids. And that's when I think it's somewhat normal when like men have kids, you start to have feelings that you don't really know how to handle. But
mm,
it's impossible not to have them because you're getting the feelings through your child, right?
mhm,
Like it's like if your kid can't read and he's having a hard time at school, it immediately puts you back into that seat when you were there. And so I was working with this therapist. Her name's Polly. She's amazing, Polly. But
mhm,
I remember her saying, like, I was smoking weed only and I wasn't drinking and, doing other drugs, but I was like smoking weed just constantly. And I remember her saying one time at the end of a therapy session, she was like, so are you going to smoke weed with your son too? And he was like, I don't know, 11 or some 10 or something. And I was like, I don't know, I'll cross that road path when I get there. And she's like, well, you were smoking weed when you were 12 and he's 10. So like it's coming sooner than later. Like, are you gonna, smoke weed with him too? And I was like, I don't really know.
mm,
And then she's like, so let me repeat back to what you're saying. You're saying that
mm,
it's okay. You might, it's okay for your son to be so uncomfortable in his own skin that he can just do drugs and alcohol 24/7. That's okay. And I said, ah, shit, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. She's like, yeah, but it's fine for you. It's fine possibly for your son. And then she's like, all right, talk to you next week. So then I'm like, fuck. And then I'm like dealing with that. So that was like a beginning of it properly. And then I think also like even the weed was like the last thing I stopped. And like, I just started to realize that, like you said, with your daughter, like all she wants to do is make eye contact and smile. Like my kids are happy like 99% of the time when they wake up,
mhm,
and I think there's all this like, oh, I need weed because I have anxiety, or it's like, well, maybe the weed's giving you anxiety, or like I need, liquor because I'm not social enough. It's like, well, maybe, but like I think we make all these like, I need this, I need this, I need this, and you justify you needing something, but like the kids don't need it. Like they're happy every day. Like they need sleep and they need water and they need food and they need exercise and they need love, but like they don't need, you know, weed like
yeah,
that's and they don't even know what it is. It's not even happening. It's like they're just totally fine like that. They need like nature and natural stuff, and like that's pretty good. And then so growing up, I mean, they grew up in LA, we lived in Los Angeles, and so weed was like is normal as it's legal. So it's like I would smoke pot in front of them. Like
mm,
that was just like some people. My dad drank in front of me, and I smoked weed in front of my kids.
mhm,
And so about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago was the last time I smoked pot. And my son Remington, he said, Dad, you embarrass me. And I'm like,
mm,
I was on the golf course playing golf with him, and he's like, "You're embarrassing me." And I'm like, "What, dude? Like, it's a fucked up feeling when your child tells you you're embarrassing them." And so I said, "What, dude? What am I doing? And he's like, "You just embarrassing."
mm,
And I'm like, "Dude, what?"
mm,
And he said, "Dad, you're 44 years old and you smoke weed like a 16-year-old rapper. You're just embarrassing, dude." And then I was like, "Bleh." And then I'm thinking like, what can I say? What can I say? What can I say? What can I say? But I knew that anything I was gonna say was gonna make me even more lame than I'm already being lame for embarrassing him. Now I'm gonna say what? Like, well, I work really hard, or like I have anxiety, or like those anything I would have said to him would have not worked. So I just said, all right, I won't do it anymore.
mm,
And then that's it. I've been completely sober since. And it was I've had like no since then it's been like I don't feel like sorry for myself. I feel completely blessed and like
mm,
happy and like like it's a choice, you know, like I chose to do drugs and I chose to be sober. And this time it's like different, where it's not like I felt it was almost just like it's the right thing to do. And then through therapy too, I remember talking to my therapist about like, well, my wife still drinks, my mother-in-law drinks, this one drinks, whatever. Like my kids are gonna end up drinking anyway. And she's like, no, like you're giving them an option.
Mm,
So you're showing that like there's an option to drink and there's an option not to drink. Like there's two options. It's not just one way where like when I was little. So they don't, you know, they see that like dad doesn't have hangovers. Like dad doesn't drink. Dad is present.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like it's very clear there is an option. They also see drunk grandma or
mm,
drunk, others, and they're like, dude, that's not it.
mm,
Like she's so loud and drunk and obnoxious. And like they're coming up to me like, dude, what's wrong with it? And it's like, so they're actually, it's really cool just to give them a different perspective. Like I'm not like preacher where I'm like, I don't care. I understand that like everything I did is great for me and it was the path I needed to be on. And it was like, if I could do it all over again, I'd do it all over. But like, it took a long time for me to realize that like you can be really happy and drugs are like temporary happiness. It's not like it's not it doesn't have longevity.
mm.
Like it will burn out at some point and then you're left with like, a bag of emotions and all this shit you got to deal with. But like, yeah,
That's a s-
I'm very blessed. My kids are awesome and it's weird like your kids can teach you, you know, probably more than you can teach them,
mm.
which
That's it.
is I never knew that, but
You can't know.
welcome to having kids, bro.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
luck.
It's we're definitely in it. I mean, that's such a special story, and I really appreciate you sharing it. Um, there's two things that come up that I'd want to share. The first thing is just a little story. Like I was with my one of my best friends, and his wife asked me, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I feel really comfortable in my skin." And her response, I think it was kind of like it was kind of a throwaway comment for her, but for me, it landed so strong. She said, "Isn't that the peak of human existence?
Yeah.
Being able to feel okay in your own skin without anything else, right?" So that's what I'm hearing you say is too. And then the other part is just like, how cool is it that you could be an example not only for your kids, but I mean, I have to tell you, man, when I started Soba, I'm doing all this research and I'm learning about all these cool people who like are stopping partying. And I've heard you talk like, you stop partying and you would get tea times and get the flyovers and plan your outfits and all that. And I was like, this is a cool dude. Like he's not drinking. He's able to kind of live his life. And with Soba in general, like there are so many more of us out there, right? And I think the culture's changing, the world's changing, the stigma around mental health and sort of addiction is shifting. You see it with like non-alcoholic beverages, and
Yeah.
you have the Surgeon General coming out and saying that like drinking at all is horribly bad. And to
I
your
mean, it's
point,
poison.
yeah,
There's no question about it. It's
yeah,
poison. Like,
yeah, it,
and I think it's cool too, like where like it's like what's happening now, I think is like the way it happened with cigarettes, where like back in the day it would be like, you know, everyone smoked cigarettes, right? And then it turned to where like no one smoked cigarettes, right? But if if I were to like ask you, like, or anyone, if I were to say like, hey, do you want a cigarette? They would be like, no, dude, like I don't smoke.
yeah,
And then I would never ask them again.
mhm,
But like it's like if you ask someone like, hey, do you want to get a drink? And they're like, not right now,
mm,
and then it's like, all right, I'll ask you later.
mm,
But like it's turning now where like it goes from like Steven stopped drinking to like, well, no, Steven just doesn't drink.
Mm,
It's like the same way. It's like, you know,
yeah.
John doesn't smoke fucking Newports. It's like, okay. It's like, if you don't smoke, you don't smoke. You don't have to explain why. But with alcohol, it's more like, do you want to have a drink? And then if the answer is no, then it's like, what are you, sick?
Mm, yeah.
Like you got a cold? Like what's going on? Like what's wrong with you? So yeah, it's like a stigma that's definitely changing. And I think young people it's changed a lot too, where like they're not it's just different. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
changing.
How has your experience been nowadays? I mean, you seem like a dude that's pretty comfortable in his skin. Like, when someone's like, "Yo, can I get you a drink?" and they don't know your situation, like, do you
But no, I
feel?
just go, hell no. Fuck no, I don't drink. You crazy, dude? It's a superpower being sober. I'm not drinking anything. Like, I don't even want to look at it.
Yeah.
But, like, it doesn't mean you can't drink it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care
Yeah.
if whatever you do, I could care less what someone else does. But for me, no, I'm that answer. I'm like, hell no. Same way if you were to ask me, do you want a Marlboro Red? It's
Yeah.
like, no, dude, fucking nuts. Like
um,
I'm like very quick to just be like, no, I don't drink. What's wrong? Like, what's wrong with
totally.
you? You still drink? Good luck with that. Let me know
No.
how that works out. Like, it's like the same thing. It's like, hey, do you want to take some poison? It's like,
Yeah.
no, dude. The fuck's
Yeah.
wrong with you? So
Yeah.
I just look at it like that and have fun with it. I don't really like, it doesn't affect me. I don't have any feeling of like no one cares. Another thing I learned is that like no one cares what you do.
Mm,
Like I go play golf with three people and they are ordering drinks and they say, "Do you want a drink?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'll take a bottle of water." Like they don't care.
right.
But there was a time where I felt they care.
Yeah.
Like no one cares. Like I don't care if they drink beer and they don't care if I drink water.
Yeah.
But like I don't like them more if they drink water with me and they
Yeah.
don't like me more if I drink beer with them. Like we're
Yeah.
already cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't need it.
I would say the tipping point for me sometimes is like, most of the people I play with are drinking or smoking weed, and it doesn't bother me at all. There are times where things start to like turn into the dark side and things get weird, and I'm like, you're just
Wow.
annoying now. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
even want
out.
to. I'm out. Yeah. So, um, but man, what a great story, and just amazing that you're available for your kids in such a wonderful way. It seems like family is just such a huge part of your life. I see it on social media, and it's just an amazing thing. So, I guess just shifting kind of just to Malbon quickly. I mean, last week was just insane with the Matisse cardigan. Like,
Um,
I don't even know what else to say. Like, I mean, what's going on? Like, every single week, people are writing about Malbon. It feels like it started maybe during the Masters when Jason wore the sweater, maybe. But like, what's your take on this whole thing?
um, I mean, first of all, Jason's amazing, right? Like Jason, like rarely drinks, if ever.
Mm,
Jason's like completely committed to his family. He's like a great husband. He's a great dad. He's a great friend to a small group of friends that he does have. And he had to figure out how to make money at a young age. So like he figured that out,
mm,
right? He's really good at golf. He's
mm,
really good at pitching and chipping and putting. And he's made probably $100 million on playing golf in his life, right? So like he just happens to be a golfer, but he's really like just one of the most like coolest dudes you can meet
mm,
who plays on the PGA tour,
mm,
but he's not the same as all those other dudes out there on tour.
mm,
And I'm not the same as the designers of other golf brands, right? Like that's just that we're both quite different, you know, and like God made us different, so we don't want to like screw it up and try to be someone else. So it's just kind of a match made in heaven, and he's super unicorn, and like he doesn't care what people think about him because he is so confident in who he is, and like he cares what his wife thinks about him and his children for sure, you know, but like angry golf Twitter guy on his
Yeah.
couch saying that like you suck at golf and that sweater's horrible. Like he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I'm about to go to Augusta and play in the Masters. Like, oh, okay, I suck. I'm
Yeah.
playing in the Masters. Like it doesn't even like it's like he laughs at it and he likes it and he likes the like um he doesn't like dressing exactly like every single person on tour,
Yeah.
and like I don't like designing like every single golf brand, so like that sweater that he was wearing, I find it to be beautiful. I grew up as an artist. I understand art history. I understand painting, and like there's inspiration in that sweater. And then doing an intarsia cardigan, it's a beautiful piece, right? It was one of the hero pieces of our first drop of spring summer. And you know, Jay likes it and he wants to wear it and he rocks it with a visor and pleated pants and like proper golf shoes and one button opened on the bottom, but buttoned the top button of the polo. And like he really put a look together, you know? And it's like that's not what you currently get when you go out and look at the people on the tour. So when you see Jason on the driving range in that outfit warming up with like 50 other pro dudes, it's
Yeah.
like they all look the exact same.
I want to talk to that. I mean, that is, it seems like the microcosm of maybe what the challenge is with the PGA Tour right now. I mean, you have this fracture between Live and PGA, and I saw this tweet the other day about uh, nobody cares about the other events besides the majors. Like that's not a great league to have right now. And maybe what you're pointing to, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but what I identify is like the uniqueness of Jason Day and what you're doing is personality. And that's what it feels like the PGA is kind of missing right now. You have this like homogenization of everyone wearing the kind of like the same thing. And, you know, it's, I don't know if you have a take on that, but like that's kind of
Yeah, I
like,
think it's half who these people are and who the designers are, and they're not like Jason practices at his home where he has like 5 holes of golf and like
yeah,
the most insane training facility ever, and like his 5 kids, right? So if it's wintertime and you're hitting balls and working out and putting indoors and hitting balls out into your 5 hole golf course from there, like he doesn't put like a tour outfit on.
yeah,
He wears like sweatpants and a hoodie,
yeah,
and he's coming in and eating a sandwich and playing with his kids, and then he's going right back out there and hitting balls. And in the summertime, he's wearing like, you know, he was on Nike before us, so like he would wear like Nike running shorts and like a t-shirt.
yeah,
Like that's what he's practicing in. That's
yeah,
what he's comfortable in. So there's that level of like, why would you wear that at your house and then go play tour and wear like really tight synthetic, you know, dry fit shit that's
yeah,
like not what he's comfortable wearing.
yeah,
So there's that level. But yeah, I mean, golf is golf. It's like there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of stuff that like, you know, there's like a issue with Jason and us and how the logos cannot be larger than 5 inches by 3 inches.
yeah.
Like that's the maximum size of a logo. So,
I saw
you know,
the jacket the other day had to get blocked out, right?
yeah, it's just like, so, you know, and then me being like, being me, it's like, okay, so you can't have one logo that's 6 inches wide, but I could have the same logo 5 inches and I could print it 100 times on a shirt. So it's just like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't quite understand it. Um, and like, I'm not a genius, but like, if the PGA Tour allowed logos to be bigger than 5 inches, I don't think it would lose them money.
No.
I don't think it would lose the players money, the tour money. I don't think that's going to lose them money.
Mm,
Obviously on the other side, it would potentially make them more money.
mm.
just
Yeah.
just thinking. So again, you got a ruler out for a 5 inch logo, which I don't really know the point of it. And
Yeah.
then it's the same example I could give you for him wearing, like, he wore a sweatsuit at Pebble.
Amazing. I actually
And
bought it because I wanted to wear it for today, but it didn't come in time.
nice. Yeah, it's nice. It's like handmade, made, and it's a Los Angeles. We make all of our fleece in LA, and it's really heavy, beautiful fleece program we do.
It's
And
gorgeous.
he wanted to wear the sweatsuit. So I'm
Amazing.
like, I'm all here for it, dude. Let's go. So then we get in trouble, obviously. But now imagine he's wearing a crew neck fleece with sweatpants that are fleece, and it's heather gray and heather gray. So it's very athletic. It's a very aggressive color of athletic leisure wear. It's
Mm,
not like the black one he wore the day before, but it was kind of rainy, so people probably thought he was in black rain pants,
sure.
which is totally fine to wear baggy drawstring rain gear
Right.
or skin tight, you know, Grayson joggers.
Mm,
That's totally okay, but it's not okay to wear cotton joggers or cotton rain pants, if you will, because
yeah.
they're not rain pants, and the
Yeah.
joggers have belt loops. So basically, he's like, it's like, we can't do that anymore. But I know it's an easy fix, and I'm like, what? And he's like, well, they're really only upset about the drawstring on the waist. So if you sew belt loops in it, problem solved.
That's amazing.
So just think of it. So like,
Yeah.
take the drawstring out, put 5 belt loops on the same exact pant. Then he can put a belt on. The belt would never be seen because you're wearing a crew neck over it anyway.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
problem solved, but it didn't solve anything. It's
I,
the exact same silhouette. It's the exact same outfit.
mm,
So now they give you a workaround where it's like, why don't you address the real problem? And the problem is you don't want people looking comfortable. Or like, I don't know. What's the
yeah.
problem? It's
I,
the belt loops is the problem. Like the drawstring, it didn't solve anything.
it,
No one will see the belt loop and no one will see the belt.
it,
You have a
it,
crew neck on.
It is interesting. I'm trying to think like what is their fear? Like what are they worried about? And the only thing that I could think of is like a lot of these clubs have like a dress code and you can't put your hat backwards or you have to have belts, you have to have tucked in and it's just like I don't know, like you're pushing people away when you continue to do that. And to the point I made earlier, it's like you're not giving any personality to these players. And that's what kind of the tour is missing. Like people aren't
Yeah.
coming to tune in. Unfortunately, the Mexico Open is this weekend. I'm excited about it, but like a lot of people aren't tuning in. It's not a designated event. There's not a lot of, interesting storylines per se. And if you had people like Amin Muli or Keith Mitchell, who like have flair, have style, Jason Day, like maybe people will tune in a little bit more and feel more connected to the product.
Of course that would happen. But the issue is that, like, like Jason Day wearing baggy pants at Augusta and a vest at Augusta, you have a golden opportunity. This is the Super Bowl of golf, the Augusta, right? This is what everyone's watching. So for 3 or 4 days, you have a person who looks different, dresses different than every single other person out there, right? And instead of like celebrating that or appreciating that, it's like, let's ridicule, let's joke him, let's tease him on air personalities, like dissing him. So you have a person who's like, I don't like golf, it's too stuffy. Wow, look at this dude. He looks like me. He's dressed fucking cool. I might play. I might actually start playing golf. And
Yeah.
then you hear them like ridiculing him and teasing him on television. And then there's kids, those people were like, nah,
Yeah.
if they're fucking with him, I'm not playing. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Like, so you just miss opportunities. And I think in general, like the golf world, the governing bodies of golf, and I think it's a lot of like key phrases like we need to grow the game, we need to diversify, we need younger people, we need women, we need this, we need that, ta 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 ta. And they sit in the boardroom and they talk about all that shit, and then they go, we're just fucking kidding. Let's go play.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know, it's like
Well,
Live has definitely helped push it in the sense where like the PGA Tour is like paying more money, and I wasn't working with the PGA Tour, and they were kind of looked frowned down at us prior to Live. And then when Live started happening, they were like, we want you to start selling it, Waste Management, President's Cup, and Tour Championship. So we actually, it's helping, right? Like it's helping how people look at it. It's helping them questioning, like, if golf's boring to watch, why not play music?
mhm,
Like it's okay, And so I think that just comes down to this like divisive, the world we live in, where it's like you're either this or you're that. And there's zero middle ground in anything. It's like if you politically like this side, or you have to hate the other side, and
mhm,
if you like that side you have to hate this side, and one person you love and they can't do wrong, and the other person you hate and they can't do right. It's the same thing. You have people like um I love the PGA Tour, so therefore I hate Live.
mm,
And then it's like just as wild and extreme and almost more nuts that like I love Live, so I hate the PGA Tour. It's like,
right.
dude, you can't hate the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Like you just can't,
It's
just because you
blasphemous.
live, like, all right. Like I went to Live Vegas and I saw Phil Mickelson hitting flop shots, warming up, and there was music playing, and it was Las Vegas, and it was a young, more fun crowd. And like, I loved it.
Yeah.
I like TGL. The thing is with golf is like any other, like when I was in like more like snowboard or skateboard culture, you would have like, if you like, you know, this snowboard company, then you don't like all the other snowboard companies.
Yeah.
So that's more of like those sports. But with golf, like I love every golf club manufacturer. Like
Mm,
I love Srixon and Mura and Mizuno. I love TaylorMade, Callaway, Titleist. I like all of them.
yeah.
I like every single one of those club companies. There's not one that I don't like. And it's the same. I like all the underground or up and coming golf brands like Eastside and Metalwood and Students. But I also love Travis Matthew, Peter, and
Nike.
RLX and Nike, and like I like all of it. I
Yeah.
don't have like a sense of like if it's like if you like this, you have to hate that. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind
Yeah.
of blabbering.
No, no, I'm tracking you. And I think one of the things that I want to identify is like, maybe this is the beginning, like it's sort of like to your childhood in some ways, right? Like, there was people that just didn't get it. They didn't know how to like embrace it. And now we're at a phase where things are changing. And I see Malbon at the beginning of like what can be really special within the game, which is like giving the game a little bit more personality. And I think you're right with Live. I'm hopeful that like they could find a middle ground, and maybe they have music at some events, and maybe they, sort of embrace some of the things that have worked there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that. And I don't want to hold you up too much longer. I'm just very grateful for the conversation. I did want to try and break some news. I don't know if you'll actually buy into it, but
Yeah, break it, bro.
let's break some news, dude. You guys must be cooking something up for the Masters for Jason Day.
I have a friend, Futura 2000, a contemporary artist, graffiti artist, legend from New York City. His name's Lenny McGurr, and he's one of the most amazing artists alive, or even, you know, just a true living legend, icon in art. and fashion. So Futura 2000, we did a collection with Futura, and Jason's gonna wear, that collection, and we're gonna have do like some type of we have a house. We're gonna do like a brand house there and have like breakfasts, and we have a bunch of
Wow.
amazing brand partners who are supporting this week. And I'm gonna play golf at Tree Farm every day,
Wow.
and go to the Masters a couple days. And
Zach Blair's a chill dude.
Zach's my guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a tea time every day that week at 10 a.m. at Tree Farm. So I'll be
I
out there all week,
the
or
the
our guest will.
the dude that did the Soba logo, the one on my hat, actually did the logo for Tree Farm. So shout out Seth McCorder who did the logo.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
follow him on Instagram.
yeah, he's a cool
Yeah, I
dude.
love that. I've been friends with Zach on Instagram, but then I ran into him in the desert at the Italian, like the old school Italian restaurant, um, during the Amex when I was out there with Jason, and then so I did get to meet him in person, and
Yeah,
he's rad. Yeah, so
yeah.
I played there last year at Augusta when I was at the Masters as well.
I don't
But
want
yeah,
to.
nothing like I didn't even mean what to happen last year to happen. Like that
Yeah,
sweater was in our spring summer collection, and Jason liked it and he wore it. I didn't know it was gonna like, you know, I didn't know any of that madness sweatergate was gonna happen. I didn't know he was gonna be paired with Tiger, so it's like it's just the same old thing. Like I'm not really trying to be like as disruptive as we're being. I'm trying to be more inspirational and like inspire people to participate a bit with golf, not like divide people more where you have like half the people are like, how dare Augusta make him take his sweater off? And the other people are like, how dare Malbon make him wear that sweater? And it's like, guys, it's not that fucking heavy. Like if I go to your house for dinner and you ask me to take my shoes off, I would gratefully take my shoes off and we never talk about it again. Like that's what happened at Augusta. It's like, Mr. Day, would you mind taking that vest off? Yeah, no problem, mate.
yeah,
That's it. It's over. Like it's over. And then the divided states of America kick in and here we go. And like, fucking people yelling at each other on Twitter. And it's like, dude, this isn't what we're
yeah.
doing this for,
No, I definitely noticed that it's inspirational, and I think when you kind of lead with your heart and soul like you're doing, it's just obvious that that's the case. The last thing I wanted to just bring up, maybe it's more breaking news. I don't know. This isn't a podcast for that per se, but I was kind of like meditating on, okay, like what other athletes, golfers could Malbon potentially get in the future? I don't know if you guys have any plans, but can I throw out a couple names?
Sure.
Okay, so these are the people that I've thought could be a good fit.
I love this.
Okay, so we got Minwoo Lee, who just signed with Lululemon, but that guy's got so much style.
I signed his sister's on our team too, by
Oh
the way.
wow,
Minji Lee is on Team Melbourne, and I love her. And I met her first. And actually, there's a breaking news. There's a Netflix Full Swing.
yeah, full swing.
Me and Min Woo are in the first or second episode, and I was trying to get Min Woo to sign with us when he was going between Lulu and Melbourne
Yeah,
because I know him well, I know his agent, I know his sister well, and so it's. I think there's like 10 or 15 minutes of on the Full Swing where I'm like full press pitching
wow,
him and like
wow,
trying to get him to, and he's wearing our gear and we're doing a photo shoot for Golf Digest actually. But when he let me know he was going to Lulu, it was like kind of a serious moment where he's
mm.
like, brother, I had to like ka. And I said, yeah, don't worry, mate. I still like your sister, you know? It's like fired on him. But
I
I
love
love
that.
him. I love him. Yeah. But
Wow.
actually, he's pretty much hemmed up.
So I think so. That was a good one for me. Another
Yeah.
person I like, Tommy Fleetwood, Nike
Hmm.
guy through and through. He
Love him.
always dresses well.
Yeah.
He
Love
loves to
Tom.
put down together an outfit. Then I got this would be groundbreaking. Ricky Fowler leaving Puma to go to Malbon.
He's a lifer.
He's a
He's a
lifer.
lifer from
Okay. Okay.
yeah. But
Uh,
anyone else?
I have two more live guys.
Okay.
Uh, would you ever consider a live player?
Yeah, we've been working with it. We were almost did Cam Smith
Dude,
as
that was
his
who I
team.
had. That's who I had down. Cam
Makes
Smith.
sense. Yeah, makes sense.
I,
But
I
we didn't
I'm
do it, and I think Grayson did it or something.
I thought, is he with Penguin or did he move to
Yeah,
Grayson?
I think that was up, so that's why we were talking to him too. But that was harder for me because it was like dressing four people and a
Yeah.
team, and like I don't know, it seemed like
Yeah.
a lot of the squeeze didn't equal the juice or something.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, Cam was my guy. So I'm kind of like, I want to say I'm
love
4 for
Cam.
4. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the fifth guy, it's a little bit of a stretch. He's like my favorite golfer. I think Brooks could be a good fit, like,
Brooks. Yeah, but he went Reebok.
oh, he
Brooks, I
did.
love. I've been friends with Brooks. Oh no, 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 I was
No,
thinking Bryson.
Bryson.
Yeah,
Bryson went.
Brooks is
He's
Brooks is
Nike.
tough. He's tough though. Claude Harmon is his on and off coach, my friend Claude.
Yeah.
And I think he just fired Claude for like the ninth time. So yeah, Brooks is it's a
Yeah.
lot there.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is if I'm gonna play the member guest at my golf tournament,
Yeah.
at like my club, if I'm going to do like a 2 3 day member guest and have dinners at night with our wives, etc., like would I want to ride in a cart for 3 days with that person?
Yeah.
And like someone like Rory McIlroy, like I love Rory. He's the sweetest, nicest, most supportive dude to me and my family and my company and everything. But like, I don't want to ride in the fucking golf cart with
Yeah.
Rory for 3 days. Like, I just don't want to do that. And I don't know that he would want to ride in it with me either for 3 days. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. But Min Woo, Jason, I love those dudes to hang. Tommy Fleetwood's awesome hang. So
Great.
that's really how I look at it. And it's like we know for sure that every dude out there is really good at golf. And
Yeah.
golf is like, it comes in waves. Sometimes you're playing great, sometimes you're not. And so you can
Yeah.
pretty much count on them all being really good at golf. But then like how are they as like humans and would we, is there something there
Yeah. And,
that
and,
would that would be fun, you
and
know?
also can they fly it? Like, can they wear it well? I think that's kind of a little bit of a part of
Yeah, I
the,
mean, we have a way of like we make a lot of stuff, so it's like I could dress anyone.
yeah.
There's very conservative stuff we make, and it's like I don't, Jason goes from wearing sweatsuit at Pebble to like a cardigan and pleated pants in
So
Torrey
cool.
Pines. So like it doesn't, we're not stuck with like one.
Yeah.
Basically, I could dress Jordan Spieth easily
Wow.
and
Wow.
make him super comfortable when it comes down to the dressing side of it. But I don't know if I could handle riding around in a golf cart with him for 3 days, So that's more important than like we can dress whoever, but
um,
um
what about last person? What about Keith Mitchell? I mean, he's all
yeah, I
about the
love him, but
fashion.
I think he has a lot of like really I love him and he's super cool. I got to hang with him at Pebble this year and him and Jason are close and but he's with that Sid
Yeah.
Mashburn, which is like
Yeah.
really cool. I think
Boutique.
it's like North Carolina or something, boutique cool, and I think they're doing a really great job with him. So
Yeah.
if I was Keith, I would just keep with stay with them. They're
Yeah.
doing great,
Yeah.
But
Totally.
Keith's cool, really cool. Like personality wise, he's just like I would love to play golf with him for a couple days. I love Zach Blair. Playing
Yeah.
golf with him's great. I love Sung Jae. Sung Jae is one of
Uh,
my favorite people out there, but Willie Wilcox is my
that.
dear friend, and Willie is Sung Jae's caddy.
Yeah.
So again, it all has to be like natural and like,
Yeah. Willie wears your
you
stuff.
know,
Yeah, I've seen him in a lot of your ads and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, Willie's my guy.
I've been trying
He
to
was
get in
just
touch with him a little. If you could send him a note on my behalf, because I know he has a kind of wild story. So no pressure there, but
yeah, he's like
all good.
Willie's like California, LA sober.
Yeah.
You know,
That's sort of
he's
what I
like a
saw.
different type of so. It's like he's not sober,
Yeah.
but like he's not as he's not where he was.
Yeah.
If that makes
I,
sense,
I kind of I kind of got that feeling a little bit, but what I would say is like with Soba, like we're defining what Soba means, and for the people out there that want to know, it's for the sober curious, and just wellness focused person. So like And to
Yeah,
your
I'll hook
point,
you up with Willie. I can hook you up with him. He's great. He's the
thanks.
best.
And
Willie's the best. Get Willie on there. He's got a fucking crazy story.
I've heard and
The
I've seen
wave
it.
god.
Yeah.
All right,
I
brother. I'm gonna go
yo,
play golf. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you so much, man. God bless. Be well.
God bless you. I'll see you guys later.
Okay, take care, man.